Hello everybody, this is Sierra from Sierra T Designs, and I'm going to quickly unbox the limited edition Love Kit, I believe it was called, from Simon Says Stamp. It just came in. It is like February 5th today, so hopefully I'll be able to get some cards made with it fairly quickly. However, sadly, I do work 12-hour shifts on weekends, so I don't always get as much crafting done as I would like. That was just sitting in the box. I'm assuming it's from Ephemera. Oh yeah, because the bag ripped. But that's okay. I doubt I lost anything. So let's pull the contents out. Let's set that there. Let's pull the contents out, take a quick look at everything that came in the kit, and then hopefully I will jump into making some fun stuff with it. So, okay. We have some, we don't get an idea sheet with this one, so I'm going to have to kind of guess at some things, but these are the Tim Holtz Idea-ology heart adornments, which have a cool little hook at the or a hoop at the top, so you can actually hook them on things, which is great. I have no idea what I'm going to do with them, but they're great. A piece of candy, as always, which my cats usually steal from me. And there's this cool bag. I think this is American Crafts bag. Yeah, and it's got this cool, like, kind of burlappy outside and then this really pretty red polka dot inside. It's kind of a cool pencil case. I might use that to pack some crafty stuff to work, actually. That's pretty cool. And then I'm assuming that little heart ephemera probably came out of here. Yeah, because there's a hole in the side there. So there is a whole pack of odds and ends by Doodlebug. I'm not going to pull them all out right now because there's 136 pieces and I'm trying to be kind of quick in this little flip through so you guys don't have to sit here for too long, because I know these videos can be a bit long. But there's a lot of Heffy Doodle things in this. Doodlebug. There's a lot of Doodlebug in this, not Heffy Doodle. All right. And then we have some mini envelopes, which you can put like gift cards or really small cards in, so those are super cute. And then there's this really pretty die, and it says, "I think I'll keep you." And I just think that's so adorable, meant in like a loving, sarcastic kind of way. So I think that that's a kind of a neat, sassy die. So that's really cool. And then we have, oh, there's another white envelope with the peel to stick. Perfect. Oh, and there's a $5 off code if you need it right there. Expires March 1st, so you have almost a month to use that. And then we have a reverse sentiments. I'm not 100% sure. I think this one's the I miss you one. I'm not 100% sure. Everything will be linked and listed down below if you want to check anything out. But so those, I'm falling in love with these. I might have to buy some. So take a quick look at the pattern paper. So there's like some bold patterns and then some. This is kind of supposed to be Valentine's Day themed, although we're not really going to make Valentine's specific cards because my husband and I don't really celebrate it. So just because we love each other every day, there's no like special day to show our love for each other. He'll surprise me with flowers randomly any day. So it's not really important to us, Valentine's Day specifically. So I will probably make love themed cards, but they might be like familial love or friendship love, not necessarily romantic love. So, and then I have this really cool stencil. I'm not 100% sure what the name is. Something about hearts, I am sure, but that's pretty cool. And then we get to the stamp set, which is the Happy Mail stamp set, which this is pretty much what sold me on the kit. I mean, the kit's always a better deal than buying the items individually. And of course, this kit at this point would be sold out. But I love these little images. I love Heffy Doodle. Oh, Doodlebug. I keep calling it Heffy Doodle. I love Doodlebug. And their images are just so cute. And I thought these would be really great for different types of love cards. So, and then it doesn't have to be like, thank you so much, Happy Mail. You know, there is the Happy Valentine's Day, but it doesn't have to be. You make me smile. It could just be to your friends, which I think is awesome. And then we do have a Slimline card in, I believe this is cotton candy with our Slimline envelope. And then we have our cardstock. So let's see what we have. I believe, and now don't quote me because again, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure we have a piece of 120-pound Neenah, a doll pink cotton candy, and I believe this is Audrey blue. I could be wrong. I will have everything linked to this down below. And then I do have a craft glue stick from Simon and some ruby heart sequins, which is pretty cool. And then this little pop-up heart, which I think is neat. We could totally put that on the front of a card and then fill it with these sequins. So that's pretty cool. So let's jump into making some cards. All right, so let's jump right into the first set of cards. So the first cards, I'm actually going to make 3. I really wanted to use those really small envelopes that came in the kit instead of trying to use them for like a gift card, or, I mean, you could put an ATC in one of them if you wanted to. That's an artist trading card. But I kind of thought it would be neat to make just mini cards. So I cut little cardstocks down to be, I believe, the ATC is 2.5 by 3.5. So I cut it down to be a side fold. So I think I did 5 by 3.5 and then scored at the 2.5 mark. And then I'm gonna mat them because that's just how I roll. You guys know that I love to mat everything. And again, I will have cut that down to be 1/8 of an inch smaller than my little card bases. And I also cut a little panel so that I could do some ink blending on top so that we could add some images. So you see there in that little pinch bowl, that blue pinch bowl at the top of the screen there, I have already colored a bunch of images from the stamp set. So I used my Karen brush pen markers to color those in with watercolor. And then I also added some glitter and I added some glossy accents. They're super cute. I don't end up using as many of them as I had hoped, but that's okay because I'll just either give them to pen pals or I'll use them on a card later or whatever I want to do. They're just sitting in that little pinch bowl. So I'm going to create 3 cards. And this first one you see me blending, I was going to use the little truck and I wanted to kind of give it a ground and a sky. So that's what you see me doing here. I kind of masked off the bottom just to kind of give it some ground. And I used ground espresso, distress oxide ink, and tumbled glass. And then you'll see beside that one panel at the top there, I did another sky, and it's just the exact same tumbled glass. It's going to go behind the little bear with the balloons. And then on this one, I used wild honey distress oxide ink, and it's just because I wanted a really vibrant background behind these 2 little mugs. And the mugs I colored as if my husband and I were having drinks. He loves black coffee, so his is, of course, the little teal mug, and mine is the little pink mug. And I only drink tea with canned milk and honey in it. Don't ask me why I do that. Well, I know why I do that. It's because that's how my mom does it. That's how my grandma did it. That's how I grew up doing it. So for me, that's just what tea is. So it's just like a family thing, and I just continue it because I love it. But yeah, I think people make funny faces at me when I tell them I put canned milk in my tea, but I do, and I love it, and I don't know that I'll ever change doing it. And then you guys see that I brought in the Happy Mail stamp from the stamp set in the kit, and I'm just adhering everything down to their little mats, and then I'm going to adhere them, I believe, to their bases as well. And I'm just going to use my Nuvo Deluxe glue. I use the exact same glue throughout the whole video, the Nuvo Deluxe glue. I do bring in some thin 3D foam squares as well later, but for the most part, I use the Nuvo Deluxe glue. Oh no, sorry, I lied. I'm going to adhere my little images first. And I covered all of them in 3D foam squares, just these little ones, because I have an abundance of these small ones that I really want to use up. So I covered the back of all of them, and then I'm just going to adhere them all down onto their little cards. And then here I'm going to adhere them to their bases. Now, I just think these are super cute cards. These are something that I would send to my pen pals, or my best friend has three kids. I could send them to them. I just think that they're ridiculously cute and a really great way to use these smaller images that I got in the stamp set. So here I'm going to show you them up close. You can see that there's some glossy accents on them. It's harder to see the glitter, but it is there. And then I also stamped the little matching envelope, and here you can see it fits in there perfectly. And then I also stamped on the inside. So I just thought that these were super cute. And that is our first set of little cards. So they're just those super cute 3 mini cards. For our second card, I really wanted to focus on the pattern paper and the ephemera that came in the kit. So you can kind of see in the top right corner there that I've picked out some ephemera pieces from the pack. And I'm just trimming down a black mat for my card and a piece of pattern paper that I'm going to use as the background. Now I'm going to jazz this background up. You could, of course, leave it on it by itself, but that's not how I roll. So I am going to bring in, this is a Slimline Borders die by Honeybee, and I'm just going to trim out like a grass effect to the little base of this panel here. And I'm going to layer that up with the same thin 3D foam squares to give it some dimension. But to start, you can't differentiate it between it and the background. So I brought in some Pine Needles Distress Oxide ink. And these little blending brushes, they're from Simon Says Stamp. They're the small blending brushes. I'm going to use a bunch of them throughout the video. And I just kind of blended it on the top to create dimension between the pattern paper on the background and the pattern paper of that little scrap that I kind of cut the grass out on. And you saw that I kind kind of had my images laid out how I thought that I would want them. Now, this kit is actually still available, shockingly. So if you are interested, I will have everything I use linked and listed down below, everything that I use that's extra, and of course everything that came in the kit separately and the kit itself if you'd like to purchase it. So I also brought in my MFT, the Rolling Clouds stencil, and some peacock feathers to just add some texture in the background. Now, most of this is honestly going to be covered up by the clouds that I'm going to add, but I thought that it would be really nice to have added texture in the background just to kind of have something else going on. And it kind of ties in with that Distress Oxide ink on the grass as well. It kind of pulls them together. And I am going to adhere it down to my black mat. You guys know that I love a black mat. If you've been here for a while, I love matting. I'm pretty much positive I matted every one of these cards. I love the look. I love the framing of it. I think that it adds a really pretty finished element. Now, of course, by all means, if you don't enjoy it, don't add it. Don't ever feel like you have to copy what I'm doing. The point of these videos especially is really to just give different ideas with a very specific set of items. I think that it's, very hard not to get kind of caught in the, well, I have to own everything that person's using. And you don't. You could use, if you had any smaller stamp set, those mini cards would be perfect. If you have any ephemera, this would be kind of a cool layout. Or, if you don't need to purchase everything that I'm using. I mean, if you want the kit, by all means, the kit is going to be vastly cheaper. But don't ever feel that you can't recreate this on your own and add your own touches. It's really, especially my 5-card 1 kits videos, is really trying to show different ideas and different techniques. So as you saw that we adhered everything down there, and I did put some foam squares behind the top of the rabbit just so he would be propped up a little bit. And then I used my acrylic block to stamp out my sentiment, which is a bit risky, but because I had added 3D foam squares behind the grass element, it was hard to stamp on in like a Misty or something. So ideally you maybe would have done that beforehand, but I forgot, so I did it after and it worked out, so it was okay. And then I brought in some moonshine sequins from Simon Says Stamp. I actually used these on a few cards. You do have the red heart sequins in the kit, from Sizzix, but I was trying really hard not to make Valentine's Day themed cards. Although this kit leans that direction, none of the cards I make are actually Valentine's Day cards. I think they're all pretty much thank you cards, with the exception of one, I believe, which is the next one we're about to make. But this is that card, and I think it was just a fun way to use some of that ephemera. So for the third card, we're going to get a bit more in depth, and we're going to use a bunch of different things for this one. So I am going to cut down a mini slimline card. My preferred size for a mini slimline is 6x6 and then scored at the 3-inch mark, making it a 6x3-inch card. And I'm going to mat on gold cardstock for this one. And this is just Simon Says Stamp's matte gold cardstock. I'm going to use their silver cardstock in the next card example. And there you can see I'm just scoring it at the 3-inch mark. Like I said, I matted every one of these cards. You don't have to do that. By all means, if you don't like that look, don't do it. It's just that I love that look, so I have a tendency to do it quite a bit. So I brought in this stencil in this kit, and I did coat the back in some pixie spray. Generally, I would suggest you go outside for this. However, it's very cold here in northern British Columbia, Canada, so I don't. I spray on top of a piece of paper towel and just don't breathe it in. That's kind of I wouldn't suggest that necessarily, but that's what I do because it's cold. And I just did blended on 3 colors of ink. I had Kitsch Flamingo, Picked Raspberry, and Abandoned Coral. And I kind of just went across the panel there. And of course, this will dry back a bit, so it won't be quite that vibrant, but it does look really pretty. And then I brought in I used the stacking tiles rectangles from Tim Holtz, and I cut out a sentiment from that sentiment strip set that you get in the kit and the center of the piece of gold cardstock because I want to mat my sentiment because that's how I roll. And I also really wanted to use one of those cool heart charms that came in the kit. So I'm covering it in a matte medium from Distress, I believe. And then I'm going to coat it in Picked Raspberries Distress Glaze. This is brand new to me. I've never actually used any of the Distress Glazes. This was the first time. I just thought it would be really cool to be very pink and gold. This whole card is going to be pink and gold. So I did coat that, and then I set it aside, and I decided I was going to foil my sentiment. Now, I do kind of wish that I had used something a little less eye-catching. And then my supervisor showed up. This is my number 2 supervisor. My number 1 supervisor will show up here in a little bit. But because this is so eye-catching, it takes away from the rest of the card a little bit, which wasn't my intention, but it's the only pink foil I own that works with this system. So, and I really wanted it to be pink. And I'm only doing that because it's black, and I didn't want it to be black because there's no black in this card. So I ran it through my Mink Mini machine, and I just foiled it with the Shattered Rainbow foil sheets, and I chose the one that was the more pinkish colored one. And here you're going to see that there is some overfoiling, so you kind of can't see the words. So I just brought in, this is like a sticky eraser. I think that's what it's called, an adhesive eraser, I think it's called. And I'm just running it across the top of my letters, and you'll see here now you can read it easily, and that just removed all the extra overfoiling. So I'm going to start adhering my layers down, and I'm going to put my little sentiment on top of my card panel. And you can see how pretty this turns out. Like, I didn't mean for the rainbow to quite be this eye-catching. It wasn't my intention, but it was the only pink foil I owned. So I don't know. You have to tell me when you see the finished pictures if it steals the show completely. So here we're going to heat set the Distress Glaze. And again, this is the first time I've ever done it. I wasn't totally sure how long I should heat it. I have watched videos by Tim Holtz. He does say that you need to heat it for quite a while. So I kind of just kept trying to move it. And of course, don't hold it. It's metal. It'd be hot. But I did kind of move it around and just kept trying to make sure that everything melted. And then I really wanted to use some of this metallic thread that I have in my stash. So I picked out the gold color, of course, because it's going to match the matte. And then I'm going to just thread my heart through the top, I think 2 layers of the thread. I mean, you could do all the layers. I was too lazy to fight with that. And I do have a piece of, I think it's 1/8 of an inch score tape on the back, just holding the thread in place. So you'll see me kind of making sure that I lay it onto that area where it's sticky. And then I'm going to bring in another piece and just go over top of the piece that I already have that so that my threads don't move. And then I kind of finagle it a bit until I'm happy with all the placement. And then I will put another piece of the score tape on top of the other side of the thread to make sure that it doesn't shift around now that I'm happy with it. And then trim off the excess. So with the metal piece, I did end up choosing to adhere it down. So here you can see I'm going to adhere my sentiment. I did choose to adhere it flat because it does already have that matte, so it already has a bit more layering to it. And then I wasn't sure if I wanted to adhere my little heart charm or not. In the end, I do decide to adhere it down. And I probably used way too much glue, but I really didn't want it to not adhere properly. So you're going to see that I do need to clean up a bunch of glue. That doesn't bother me any. I'm perfectly okay with it. Excuse me, I just used my reverse tweezers and just kind of tidied up the area around where it kind of seeped out. But it did stay, it did adhere, and it's still sitting there perfectly fine. So I think that it was the best choice. Just because this thread isn't super thick and super heavy duty, I was concerned that if it shifted around, the thread might break and you might lose the charm. So this was just kind of my way to make sure that it didn't fall off more so. And then now I'm going to adhere my layers together, again flat with my Nuvo Deluxe glue. And you can see that little hole in the center there. I have been asked before why I use so much glue. I didn't really realize that it was considered that much glue. I just kind of, I hate to have things fall off. Like, I hate that. I hate when I mail a card to somebody and if it got a little bit tussled around in the mail that something might fall off of it. And I hate the idea that I've worked so hard on this card and then I just didn't put enough glue so it falls apart. Like, that just really upsets me. So I do tend to, I guess, excessively glue things. And then I did adhere a couple of moonshine sequins, and I called this card done, and I think that it turned out really stunning. But you can kind of see here where that sentiment kind of steals the show a little bit, which wasn't quite my intention. However, it works, and it's not black because there's nothing else in that card that is dark. So I think that it does work in the end. Now, this next card I created, I love it. It's simple. It's not a super difficult card to make. You could easily recreate this if you have some of the same products in your stash. So I brought in the Iridescent Glitz Glitter Gel, and I have the stencil again. Now, be aware, I did clean this. However, you can see a little bit of pink transfer here. So just be aware of that. I didn't quite get all the oxide off from the other card. So there's a little bit of transfer. Not bad, but there is a little bit. And I just kind of tried to give a thin layer like across the card. And then I'm going to show you here that I like to use press and seal to seal up my container. I think that I learned that from Amy R, to be honest, from Prairie Paper and Ink. But it's just a really good idea. So you can see here, like I had it in my drawer. This is rock hard, all the stuff on the top, but the pieces, all the gel on the inside is usable, completely great, like no problem at all. And of course I put it in upside down just because. But I will have a link to some press and seal if it's difficult to find for you. I believe Simon Says Stamp even sells it at this point. And I did cut down a matte. This is the silver matte glitter card, or is the silver matte pearlescent cardstock, I think Simon calls it. I'll have everything linked and listed that I used in the video. And I have the die from the set. So I'm going to cut out the outline in that silver matte cardstock. And then I'm going to cut out the I think I'll keep you part. I'm going to cut it out 4 times from HammerMill Cardstock. It's a heavyweight cardstock. It's about 100 pounds because I want to layer it up and have that be the showstopper of this card. So I'm going to cut it out 4 different times here, and then I'm going to adhere them all together. And I love this. If you guys have seen Frozen, I don't know if you have or not, but the Disney movie Frozen, the troll lady, when she meets Sven and Kristoff, says that, I think I'll keep you, you're cute. And I just thought it was so cute. So I had to use the die because I loved the sentiment. I thought it was adorable. If you guys didn't know, I really like Disney movies, so it's quite entertaining. Have you guys seen Encanto? If you like Disney movies, let me know if you've seen Encanto. I love it. It's so good. Anyway, so you can see here that I've adhered all of my layers together. I'm on the 4th layer, and this is the one I'm going to show you. And I kind of just put dabs of glue on all of the thicker areas of the die. It is a bit of a pain to get to go together just because you have so many pieces that don't necessarily want to line up. But I think the end result with that kind of chipboard look really draws the eye and looks nice. So I did also bring in an acrylic block just to sit on top so that it wouldn't shift around while it was adhering. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing with that silver matte. I'm going to adhere it down with my Nuvo Deluxe glue. I did consider bringing in some Big Mama foam tape to adhere my sentiment on top of my Glitz Glitter gelled base. But in the end, I chose not to add any more dimension. And here you don't see the heart, but I have done it. Okay, so this is going to look like I made this card in like 5 seconds. That Glitz Glitter gel piece, I actually had sitting aside the whole time I made the 5th card. So I let it sit aside because if you watched my January video, you know that I had a struggle with the moisture of the panel making my card warp something awful. So this looks like I just adhered it right away. I didn't. This sat for a good hour, slightly longer possibly. So just be aware that I did actually let it dry for quite a while before I went and adhered it down. It's just with the power of editing, it looks like I just, was able to adhere it right away. But no, I made the full 5th card before I came back and did this as a last step. But of course, with the power of editing, I can put all the clips wherever I want them to be. So, and of course, once again, I had to bring in some Moonstone sequins from Simon. They are by far my favorite neutral sequin, if that kind of makes sense. They go with everything. They're not super eye-stealing, but they add a little extra pizzazz. Not that this card necessarily needs it. It's quite eye-catching on its own, but I love sequins and I love matting everything. So I did choose to add some sequins to it. And then here you can see how stunning does this card look. And it wasn't difficult. And you could do this with any big sentiment and any stencil. Like I think that this would be a really cool card to make for any occasion and any color. I mean, you could use anything other than iridescent. I just thought that a monochrome-esque look would be really cool. And then for my last card, I am going to create another mini slimline card. So I'm of course creating my base, which will be the same 6x6 scored at the 3-inch mark, creating a 6x3-inch card. And I do have a tendency to show you guys the card bases. I have had people ask me questions about them, so I just leave that in now. I know it's kind of boring to watch me make card bases consistently, but I don't want anybody to ever not understand what's going on or not be able to make their own because I left something out. So I am also going to cut down, at this time, I am actually going to use some cardstock that came out of the kit. This is the Doll Pink. And I also have a pattern piece of paper there that I'm also going to use as the background. So for this one, I did actually miscut it. See, this is why I cut them and then double check my cuts, because that dull pink one was way off. So I did cut them again to be about 1/8 of an inch smaller than each layer. And we are going to create a flat shaker card. So here I have a random piece of plastic. I keep all of my plastic in the drawer. Generally, I keep my stamp sets in their plastic they come from to start with. And then as it starts to rip or starts to fall apart, I take them out of the stamp set, put them in a stamp pocket, and then put the plastic in a drawer so that I can keep it aside for things like this, because I hate to throw it away. So I am going to bring in my 1/8 of an inch score tape here. I think that it's the easiest way to adhere it down. I wouldn't suggest a liquid glue or anything like that. This is the most secure way to make a pocket. And I do like to do one side at a time. This is just because I find that I'm less likely to get areas that don't have glue or see, here's my number one supervisor. I find that this is a better way to make sure that I get no areas that glitter or shaker pieces can fall out. So this is just something that I've learned after making quite a few of these cards. I find that I get a way better hold on my shaker pocket. So that's just kind of my preference. So I do one side at a time, and then I lift up the release paper and then adhere that side flat. And here she's actually gonna play on my desk for a little bit. I had to give her a piece of release paper so she had something to play with, so she wouldn't play with my score tape. But yeah, she just kind of hung out with me for portions of this card, which was pretty cool. And then, of course, I will do the top part so that my shaker pocket is complete. And then we're going to put in the little sequins that came in the kit. So this card is a little more Valentine's Day themed, I guess, because I do have the like heart confetti and I have, like the kisses and hugs background and the whatnot. But again, I used a sentiment that says thank you so much because I think it's a more useful to me card at this stage of the game. Of course, we're now the 3rd of March. So I didn't want to wait any longer on this kit. I am a little behind. If you guys know, I got pretty sick in January and I'm just playing catch up with a whole bunch of things. So I'm just trying to get all of my stuff done and I'm just a little behind. So I did bring in the scrap of dull pink cardstock and I am going to white heat emboss my sentiment. So she does leave here because once I have to bring out my heat gun to heat set, she leaves. But now that I'm doing the edit, she actually lays on my desk in front of me on a towel. So she's back. She's right here. She's super sweet. So I did cover it in the alabaster white embossing powder from Brutus Monroe, and then I'm going to heat set it. I love watching embossing powder melt. I think it's one of my favorite things about embossing. I'm sure everybody probably feels the same way. It's just like magic to me, and I just love it. And then I did trim this down to be a sentiment strip, and you can see there that I've picked out the little mailman bunny from the images that I had already colored, and he's going to go on the front of the card. He just kind of brings in a pop of color that's not pink, and I thought that was really pretty. So I did cut off the edges. I'm going to create a banner die by cutting down the center of the card, or of the strip, and then just cutting little fish tails into that center cut. That's just kind of an easy way to make a little banner if you don't own a banner die, which I don't. And then I am going to put a piece of that same 1/8 of an inch score tape on the back of this, just so that I know that it'll stay on top of the acid, like the plastic that this is created out of, the shaker window is created out of. You can use liquid glue. It does work. I have used it. This is just guarantees me that it's not going anywhere. And I did have to make sure that I lined it up. And now my little bunny, I'm going to cover in little foam squares. Oh, I'm going to adhere it first. I used 1/2 inch score tape to adhere this down to my mat. I didn't quite line it up perfectly, but that's too bad because it's score tape, so you're kind of SOL. But it's fine. It's really hard to tell that it's not perfectly aligned. You'll see it in the picture because I've mentioned it to you, but it's not super obvious. So I'm not too concerned about it other than it's not quite where I wanted it, but that's fine. And I chose to use score tape on the back just to make sure that the pocket could not open or go anywhere. And I never have had it do so. It's just a like precautionary measure to make sure that it can't. And then I did use liquid glue to adhere this down to the base that I have created. And I did adhere a few things in the inside of my base as well, which I'll show you here when we do the close-up picture. But I think this turned out super cute. I love how it turned out. I'm going to hold it up and I'm going to show you right here. I'm going to actually shake it for you. There you can kind of hear it shaking around. That's so cute. I love flat shakers. I think they're a lot of fun to create, and I think that they're a lot of fun for people to receive. It's just kind of an interactive element, which I think is really neat. So those are my 5 cards. If you have a favorite, I would love to know which one it was. Are you going to recreate any of them? Let me know. So I'd love if you'd consider leaving me a like, leave me a comment, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. I do new videos every Monday and Thursday. Thank you so much, guys, and I will see you again very soon. Bye-bye for now.